Great, Matthew. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm very good. Thank you so much, Matthew. Congratulations for your
Thank you very much, sir.
visa.
Thank you very much,
So
sir.
you're being a restaurant manager going to Australia on a 482 sponsorship visa. So how are you feeling?
Yeah. Feeling good actually. I've been here in the Middle East for the last decade, and this will definitely be a change in scenery for me as well. And I'll be going back to my roots as well. So it's a great feeling, feeling of traveling, new environment, new workplace, new colleagues, new family, new team. So positive, feeling very good.
Okay. And quite interesting that you are from basically from Kerala and you are
Yeah,
working in Qatar for the last few
yeah,
years.
that's right.
You're living in Qatar. Then how you
Yeah.
got connected to our Cochin office? Your visas got processed through our Cochin office. So how did this happen?
Uh, well, actually, I got in touch with Mr. Christopher through one of our cousins.
Mhm.
So he was the one who recommended that I speak to Mr. Christopher regarding this particular opportunity. So when it came through and when they started communicating regarding this particular matter, the information that they were providing was clear and concise, and it was actually matching my field of work as well.
Okay,
So there's a certain trust that has to be a rapport that you need to create between people so that you feel trusted enough to let them do things for you.
right.
So that communication was really good and that trust was there. So, you know, um, um, it was an absolute pleasure, dealing with both of you and getting it done.
Very good. Thank you so much. And why Australia? You're already there in abroad, but is there any specific reason that you chose Australia?
Um, the thing is, initially when this whole movement thing was planned, it everybody was saying Canada, 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 but I mean Australia is a whole different horizon. It's a whole different scene. Um, I've done my research thoroughly, and in terms of the F&B field, in terms of things related to the field that I'm trying to study and grow, Australia seemed to be a much better place when compared to the other destinations
Mhm.
in terms of the independent restaurants, in terms of what was going on currently,
Mhm.
it just seemed like the right solution. It just seemed like the right place to go.
Mhm.
So that was the major decision. That was a major factor that made me decide in moving to Australia.
Okay, interesting. And actually, that that a lot of chefs and cooks and bakers and all basically that go to Australia, but restaurant
Yeah,
manager is not usually the the usual the profession which people getting visas because it's quite
yeah,
complicated because
it's quite complicated.
to
Yeah,
prove that your ability as being a restaurant manager is not that
yeah.
easy.
It's more about communication skills. It's more about how well you convey the message that you want to convey and how well you can guide
Mhm.
or guide your team as well. But for me, being in a leadership position, it's all about your communication skill. Like how do you convey a message to someone and how do you make your team understand your point of view as well.
Yeah.
So whenever you go into an interview, yeah, and like you said, a chef is more of a technical skill. So you can show that to someone and say, okay, fine, this gentleman is good. But when it comes to a manager or a managerial level, it's more about your level of communication, your level of confidence, uh, and there is a certain level of technical knowledge as well. So I think through my years working in the Middle East, I was able to fine tune that skill set, and I think that was one of the factors that helped me get this as well. Plus, of course, yeah. So your education and all that matters, but at the end of the day, if you're not confident in what you're saying and doing, that's a major factor as well.
Okay, but I think your application is one of those got struck in between the huge pile up of
Pile of
applications happened
transactions. Yeah,
in the Department of Immigration.
yeah,
So how it was because your visa is expected in about 2 to 3 months, but it got delayed an
yeah,
additional month. So how
yeah.
was it the communication? You're happy from the office that they were in touch with you? Is that how the communication flow? Because that which is very important for us because most of the
look,
time that we get visas before the recommended time, but sometimes because of any of the external factors like the COVID or the sometimes the department's overload, there's a kind of a delay. But even in that way, it's important that we have to communicate to the candidate on what's going on. So how you feel that? Is there anywhere that you feel that we could have done better?
From my personal experience, look, there's the first thing that is about building a good rapport. So if you are dealing with a person, if you have a good connection with them, a good level of trust with them, that's an important factor, because a lot of financial resources are being put into this particular matter.
Yeah.
So once you build that trust, especially with you both, with Christopher and yourself, your communication has been clear, concise, and precise throughout the whole interaction. So whenever I had requested for an update or whenever I had a doubt to clear up, your reply had been quite immediate, actually. So I not even at one point I felt like you are delaying things, or I was not getting the clear answer. No, whatever communication was being provided was how do you call it? Informative, of course, but then it was answering the questions that I had. So I have no complaints about that.
Very good. Thank you so much. And for our viewers, help that. Sorry. Okay. For our viewers' help, that would you be able to just explain your background and where did you come from and where did you work and where you are planning to go, the restaurants or the city you are planning to join in Australia?
Okay.
And what is that something which is interesting for you feel like that's we wanted to share with the rest of us?
Well, my background, I was born in India. I was born in Kerala. Education-wise, I got my bachelor's degree in hotel management from Bangalore. Right after that was done, instead of going for a job, I got interviewed through another college to pursue my post-graduation in Switzerland. So that was the first time that I had the opportunity to go and work and study in an international market. And that was sort of the place that set the tone for the whole F&B scene. Till then, I was not planning to stay in F&B. I sort of planned to stay in another department in a hotel, something. But once I got there, once I get a feel for what the F&B industry is about, it sort of set the tone in my mind.
Right.
So after my PGD, it was back to the Middle East. So I worked in the Middle East, as I mentioned, for the last decade. So that was split between Dubai and Doha.
Right.
So I had the opportunity to work with different types of management, different types of people who taught me what to be and what not to be. So taking lessons from both the positive and the negative. And it had its ups and downs. Hospitality industry is not the easiest place to be, but then there is also a good bit of fun to be had, a good bit of lessons to be learned in terms of your professional life and your personal as well.
Okay.
About this particular trip to Sydney, I am quite excited. It's a change in the environment again, as I mentioned, change in workplace, new colleagues, and all that. Plus, it's a new concept that I'll be working for, and I will be going back to my roots as well, which is more related to alcohols and beverages. So I'm excited to be back there again, back to learning again. And of course, Sydney is a very active city. It's a very active place. So I have hobbies as well. So it'll be personal growth and career growth that I'm looking forward to as well.
So you're sure that you are very much going to upgrade your skills and knowledge
Absolutely.
in different environment.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm talking about career and personal growth. So it's happening on both ends as well.
Right.
So you're growing as a person and as a leader as well.
Okay, interesting. And you got the 2-year 482 subclass visa. And so what's your short-term and long-term plans now? Do you have anything in your mind?
For the short term, well, as far as the conversation that I had with the gentleman that I'll be working for, it'll be more along the lines of helping him develop the learning and development side of things, and to set all the procedures and processes in place. And of course, in the long term, I don't intend to plan to stay in the same position that I am. I'm always looking for the growth.
Right.
So preferably, I would love to grow with the gentleman itself because the conversations that I've had with him, he seems to be the guy who is willing to teach people and to just watch them grow as well.
Mm-hmm.
So long-term plan, yes, I don't intend to stay in the current position that I am. I'm always looking for growth. I'm always looking for opportunities,
Okay.
and that's what I'm aiming for.
Oh, interesting. So you have any plans to stay longer duration in Australia with the suitable visas? You will be exploring
Uh,
as well?
if the suitable visas are available, if the opportunities present themselves, of course, it is obviously a better place to be right now.
Right.
So should the opportunity present itself, yes, I will take, yeah, I will make use of the opportunity. Absolutely.
Okay, interesting. But because I worked in the Australian hospitality industry for many, many years, and
Okay.
one thing I found is that the Australia is very innovative on food. So,
Yeah.
you being a restaurant manager, and it's a quite an interesting challenge that because you keep upgrading or changing the menu once in 3 months. So obviously
Yeah.
the quest for the cuisine knowledge, which is if you have, then that's a right place to explore, and also that obviously that the wine, the knowledge, which is very
Yeah.
important for Australian food
Important as
culture.
well.
And I think that's where I think it's going to be a very good space which can learn a lot of things, and I'm sure it will be very interesting. Especially you studied in India, you studied in Switzerland, but you worked into a Middle East environment where you may not
Yeah.
have exposed much into
Exposed to the alcohols and wines. Yeah.
alcoholic beverages. So I think that is the area in international global restaurant management or the F&B service management you will be lacking. I think
Yeah.
this will be a perfect fit for you to just fill those blanks of your career miss outs. I'm sure then,
Absolutely.
yeah, miss out
I
after
mean,
I think a few years working in Australia, you can be say that you're a complete wholesome food and beverage expert.
absolutely. I mean, look, even though I don't have the exposure to the alcohol and the beverages scene right now, ever since this opportunity popped up, I have been spending time. So I've been brushing up my knowledge, and I've been spending time on learning about where I'm working,
Right,
and with their beverage menu as well. So I am putting in the effort from my side just to get my basics in line.
right.
But I'm sure once I land, once I start working, once I get an even better idea about the cuisine that I'm working with,
Mm.
my knowledge will of course be expanding. So I'm a curious person, so I don't sit still. It's one bit of knowledge after another that I love to read. So that's also something that's exciting.
Interesting. And I think a few tips, Vachan, I like to share is because Australia is a very multicultural environment. So in a restaurant
Yeah,
you're going to work, definitely you will come across quite a few people belong from a different country, different
yeah.
faiths, different cultural backgrounds. So I think it's an interesting area. Not only you learn about food, beverage, but also the people skills. I think
People
that's
and the
an
culture.
opportunity for you to learn, and I think that's where the confident level comes. And I think
Absolutely.
from anywhere in Australia you work, I think you are getting into a global stage. Do you have any questions about the travel which we can assist you?
Travel. The thing is, I've already done a fair bit of research in terms of um, my travel. Oh, the thing is there any particular travel requirements as such at this point? Because I'll just be carrying my visa, my passport. I've read about the COVID, and they've said there is no requirements as of now to do a PCR before leaving from here.
No, yeah.
Is there any other documentation I need to carry?
No, nothing. It's because it's all Australia as a e-visa. So even
Okay,
it's not necessary for you to take a hard copy, but still it is
okay,
advisable to take a hard copy of your visa, which would have come to your mail ID,
yeah,
and
okay,
also that your vaccine doses. You can always
hmm,
keep a copy of that.
okay, of that.
But as of now, while we're talking this
Mhm.
particular conversation, that the PCR test is not mandatory, and even
Okay,
that vaccination certificates is not mandatory. So obviously
fair,
that
fair.
though it is highly advisable, but it's not that case. So, but you have everything in place. So I don't think that you need to worry about anything. But only thing I would suggest is Australia has a very high quarantine regulations, which means
Okay,
you need to make sure that you don't take certain things like the seeds, fruits,
Yeah.
wooden products. So make sure that you go to the Home Affairs or Border Security Force and then learn a little bit more about what you can take and what you can't take. So that's very important. Otherwise, it's a pretty
Coincidentally,
straightforward travel.
coincidentally, I was on YouTube last day, and one of the programs that popped up was something related to border security.
Okay,
So, so needless to say, I watched like 5, 6 videos, and I had a fair idea of what to take and what not to take.
right.
So that was a little bit of new knowledge as well. So yeah, that I'm aware of. That food products are restricted, items with seeds are restricted, and there's a quite bit of fair bit of restriction on bringing in some material. So
Yes.
that I'm aware of. So I don't intend to bring too much anyway. So
Even if you are not
relatively,
sure, even if you're not sure about specific things, it's better to declare because
Mhm.
obviously there's the card, the de-embark, sorry.
Yeah.
So even in certain cases, they give you the immigration card, which has been circulated during the flight. So you make sure that even if you're not sure, that you give
Just
a,
declare it.
and then you can declare it. I mean, obviously, then
Yeah.
when you go through, they may ask you a few
Mhm.
questions. And then if it is not worthwhile, they may just let you go. So but
Okay.
it is an offense if you are not declaring it. So make sure you
Declare it
declare,
items.
even if you're not 100% sure. Matthew, one thing I just wanted to advise you is because when you are working in 482 subclass visa, that your
Okay.
employer will cover you on all the statutory health benefits like work cover.
Okay.
But beyond that, it's also important that you need to take your medical insurance.
Okay.
Here in the process, we have done 1 month health insurance for you to go and reach and start working. But at the
Okay.
end of the month, you have to reach out to the employer and take the insurance which is applicable for you. And
Okay.
make sure that one thing I always recommend for candidates is many of this health insurance doesn't cover the ambulance. So obviously that it is very expensive if you don't have an ambulance cover and then you've been using those services, it's quite expensive. It
Okay.
runs a few $1,000s. So it's always recommend that once you go there, it's very
Mhm.
simple that an annual package of ambulance cover is about $40, $50 or something like that.
Okay.
So that will
That's
cover you
good.
through. Even if
Okay.
you said that you have a lot of hobbies and sportings, and if you're going
Yeah.
skiing, then something happened. If they want
Yeah. I
to, you
understand.
know,
I
take
understand.
a chopper, but still it's all covered. So
Okay.
make sure that you have all the statutory requirements has been satisfied. All your health insurance, your ambulance insurance. Make sure that part that you need to take care.
Okay. So there's a cover for the first 1 month that I'm arriving in the country.
That's correct. Yes. So the
Okay.
moment you
So
land there, you
mhm.
have to reach out. The moment you land there, you reach out to the employer, and they
Okay.
will assist you what need to be done.
Okay. Perfect. That's not a problem at all, sir.
Right.
Alrighty. Perfect. Anything else you need from my end, sir?
Thank you so much, and I look forward to see you in Sydney. I'll be coming on the month of February.
Absolutely. It'll be a pleasure to meet you face to face.
All right. Okay. So feel free to reach us if you need anything.
Absolutely, sir. Will do. I'll keep in touch, and then I'll keep
Thank
you
you so
updated
much.
as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye bye.